Hey, it's Jessi, and today I'm going to be figuring out what the most hated book in 2021 according to BookTube was. If you haven't watched, I would recommend watching my most loved video because while it's a little more chaotic, it kind of explains what I'm doing here. I'm rewatching a lot of end of year most hated, least liked videos, and I'm just gonna kind of compile them all and see which books came up the most. I'm expecting, well, if you've watched my loved one, I was expecting those to be a little more consolidated, see a lot of the same books coming up often, and I didn't as much as I expected. I'm expecting that even less for this one because I think the books you expect to like, a lot of people read the same ones. So those will get higher ratings because you expect to like them. I guess you don't always feel the way you expect to feel. But like the negative books tend to come from things like secret TBRs or random stuff that like throws books at you that you weren't really expecting to like. The opposite could be true though, because overhyped books end up finding their way into the hands of people that aren't really the target audience or wouldn't have picked them up otherwise. So it actually might be the opposite, where we see a lot of books that have been vocally talked about being pretty unpopular. So I'm gonna do that. I will show some B-roll of me watching those videos, and then we'll get to it at the end. About to go to bed, but quickly, I have entered now 40 booktubers' least favorite books of this thing. I'm gonna compare to this what I have to what I got for the first 40 booktubers that I did. These aren't the same booktubers. By the end of this video, it will be as much as possible the same booktubers, but this was just 40 random ones. Couple things at this point though. One thing I noticed that I think is really interesting comparing this to favorites videos, the definition of least favorite or worst seems to vary greatly across the board. Just about everybody started their video with some sort of disclaimer about this is just my opinion, which is interesting to me because it just makes me laugh. Like, imagine if I started my best of video with like, I'm sorry if you hated this book, but so that was interesting. But the other thing is they kind of define what they think of as worst, and for some that's like, these were ones that disappointed me, and I did try to avoid ones that were specifically most disappointing because I think that's different, but as best as I could. Some were like, went specifically by 1 to 2 stars or 1-star reads. Some just went with, these were the 10 I rated lowest, so it seems much more variable what worst means as opposed to what best means. I do want to add a little disclaimer here, for my sake, that I am very sorry if you liked these books. These aren't even my opinions. This is BookTube's opinions. And quite frankly, I like some of these books, and I'm a little annoyed to see them on this list. That said, at 40 booktubers, we have 290 different books, as opposed to at this point in best, we had 388. Yeah. So it's considerably fewer. This means almost 100 fewer. This is either a case of more consolidation, which I don't think it is based on number of booktubers that said each book, or everybody just says fewer books. And I will clarify at the end. You will see at the end the average number of books per video that comes up. But one or the other, because there are almost 100 fewer books on this list. Let's jump in then to what we have. I'm not gonna tell you which books are in the lead yet because I want it to be kind of a surprise. I will say, kind of based on what I had heard, a lot of these were books that were hyped, but everything I saw from them were booktubers, like throughout the year, what I saw from booktubers was, man, this book was really hyped and I hated it. I never really saw anybody ever hyping these books. One or two of them I did. I also haven't seen a huge overlap between what's on the best books list versus what was on the worst books list. So it doesn't seem like what I had theorized at the beginning, like books get hype and so people that aren't really the target audience read it. That doesn't seem to be happening that often. There is occasionally overlap, but it's generally at the lower end. Like it was on one or two people's favorite list and one or two people's least favorite lists. It's not like the top are the same. All right, so the top here, we have one book at the top with 7, and then we have 2 books that 5 people each said, 3 books that 4 people each said, and then a few 3s, several 2s, and we dropped down to only one person saying a book at 261. Now on our loved list, we switched at 337, so that seems to be fairly proportional. So just to kind of put that in perspective proportionally, at this point in the loved video, when I had only looked at 40 booktubers, 87% of the books were only listed by one booktuber. So 87% of the books were unique. On the other hand, here it's a little bit higher. 90% of books are listed by only one YouTuber. That's really close though, so I'm not like taking anything super focused on that just yet. We will see at the end how everything measures up. All right, I will make sure these lists are the same. Anyway, that's it for now. I will keep working on this for the next week or so and then finish up my thoughts so I can get this out. Not my hair being messy instead of cute messy. All right, let's figure out then what was the most hated book in 2021 according to BookTube. So some facts and figures here. As I said in the best of video, overall I have 94 booktubers that I watched videos for. And like I mentioned, of those, 4 of them didn't have best of videos. So there's 4 booktubers that are exclusive to the worst of. 50 never uploaded worst of videos. So this is 2 weeks after I wrapped up my best of videos. So I've given YouTubers an extra 2 weeks to upload videos, and 50 of my list didn't upload worst of. A lot of them, I wouldn't say a lot, many of them have most disappointing books videos, but I didn't want to include those. I was only including best of, or worst, or least favorite. That kind of phrasing. Similar to the best of, I didn't include most surprising. I wanted to hone in on, I read this book and hated it. So that leaves me with a list of 44 booktubers. Of those, the 44 booktubers resulted in a list of 413 books, which comes out to about 9 books per booktuber. This is less than we had with the best of. Best of was about an average of 11 books per booktuber. Now, there's 2 different ways we can find the difference depending on how you want to like think of it. So if we find the difference of those averages, we get a difference of about 2. So like the average booktuber has 2 more books on their favorites list as opposed to their least favorite lists. However, if we look at the totals, so like if we do the difference between individual booktubers, the average difference is 6 books. So those that actually, so like if we look at, how do I explain this? If you uploaded both videos, I would find the difference between best and worst. But if you only uploaded one, that's going to count a bigger difference, because if you upload a favorites with 12 books on it and no least favorites, that's like 12, a difference of 12. Does that make sense? Am I over explaining? Regardless, the average difference for the average booktuber that uploads both would be 2, but if they are choosing to upload whether they want to or not, it would be 6. I also want to note that I did not include in this any sort of ranking all the books I read this year videos, just because most of those are like hour-long videos. But also, I don't get to decide whether you would consider where that line between this is a bad book and this is the worst book would be. If that makes sense. All right. That said, I have my spreadsheet sorted by number of votes. Let me go ahead and uncover that. All right. So with least favorites, of the total book number that we have at the end, so after combining the same books, we end up with 367 total different listings. This is compared to the 730 from the best of. Of those 367 books, 336 are unique entries. This comes out to 92% of the books are unique entries. One person only said that. This is much higher than it was with the favorites video, and this could just be a result of a smaller sample size. But with the favorites, as a reminder, 579 of the 730 books were single entries, so 79%. So this is like a lot fewer booktubers upload negative videos at the end of the year, but also there is even less agreement on what those are, which one that is. So let's go figure out what the top 10 least liked books for BookTube were. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so the top 10 are anything that got 3 or more votes, as opposed to with the favorites, it was 6 or more. So these first 4 all got 3 people that listed them. The Final Girls Support Group by Grady Hendrix, The Minders by Mars, The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, and The Other Black Girl by Harris. Those 4 all got 3 people that said they were their worst books of the year. Next, we have 3 coming in with 4 votes, so tied for third place. So that was third would be in 4th place. 4 votes in 3rd place we have From Blood and Ash by Armin Trout, Survive the Night by Riley Sager, and The Wrong Family by Taryn Fisher, I think. So those would be our 3rd place entries. Tied for 2nd place with 5 votes, we have Kingdom of the Wicked by Maniscalco and The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, which I agree. And then finally, the most hated book on BookTube for 2021 was The Maidens by Michaelides with 7 votes. And this is interesting because looking at the most loved book for 2021, it had 12 votes, which of the 90 booktubers means there was about a 13% rate that voted for it, as opposed for the hated, which had 7 votes out of the 44 total booktubers I looked at for hated, and that gives it 16% of the votes. I didn't look over to see, let me see if I can see those top ones. Let's see, The Midnight Library, wow. How much of an overlap there was between these. No one said The Maidens for their favorite. Midnight Library had, where is it at? Midnight Library had 2 votes for favorite. I think messed up. There's 1 vote for The Maidens as a favorite. No one said Kingdom of the Wicked for their favorite. Don't remember anybody saying The Wrong Family, but it has been a little while. No one said The Wrong Family is their most loved. I know Survive the Night has been a very unpopular Riley Sager, so 1 vote for Survive the Night for a favorite. I think From Blood and Ash might have a few. From Blood and Ash had 2 favorites. And that's just what we'll stop with, those top 3. I think what will be interesting to see, and I think one of my theories here is that it's less books get hype in a year, more people read them, and there's conflicting opinions, which we don't see here. We see not a lot of overlap between favorites and least favorites. Let me even see if People We Meet on Vacation wasn't even a least favorite. What were the other ones we had here for the most loved? Just a couple ones. Pure Nessie, Jade Legacy. 1 person said Pure Nessie. No one said Jagged Legacy, but then again, that's the third in a trilogy, so I mean, I guess if it could be... Anyway, point I'm saying is there's not a lot of overlap between these two lists. But a lot of the ones that are on the top had some kind of hype around them. So Michaelides had a book last year that was super popular. Midnight Library had a lot of hype in 2020. Kingdom of the Wicked, From Blood and Ash, all had a lot of hype in 2020. So what I'm thinking the trend might be is that books get popular in one year, and then it starts to, like I theorized at the beginning, spread outside of the intended audience, outside of the people that would have liked it. And so in the next year, it ends up on least favorites. So I would be curious to do this again if you guys are interested. So again, let me know in the comments if you would be interested in me doing something like this again. Because if you are, then I can see if I can track those trends and see if things like The Love Hypothesis or Song of Achilles, well, probably not Song of Achilles, that's not so new, or Pure Nessie, or People We Meet on Vacation, those ones end up pretty high in the hated list next year. Or if not that, books by the same author, because I know with Michaelides it was a case of people really liked his book that The Silent Patient that he came out with last year, a couple of years ago, and then he came out with The Maidens and people hated that one. And then I also noticed some people going back and saying, well, I read The Maidens and hated it, but people say The Silent Patient is better, and they went back and read The Silent Patient and hated that too. So I'm just wondering if that's kind of the trend we'll see. So I would be really, really curious to see if a lot of these favorites end up on least favorites next year. So let me know in the comments below if that's something you're interested in me doing from year to year, tracking these trends over time, because if you are, then I will do it again. But again, this was a time commitment, so I want to know if people want to see it. All right, that's it for me. Subscribe if you're interested in more kind of weird data analysis like this that I sometimes occasionally do, or anything else you just like looking at my face. And I love y'all. Bye.